do lipstick, diapers, and men's underwear have in common? Believe it or not, all of those things might be strange little signs that the economy is taking a turn for the worse. As a minimalist, I've made several videos talking about the things I don't own or no longer buy to save money and reduce clutter. And so when I saw this topic trending in the news, I knew I just had to share it with you. So in today's video, we're diving into 11 surprising things people refuse to buy in a recession and what those spending shifts reveal about how to protect your wallet when times get tough. And if you've been worried about a potential downturn, this video will help you be informed, prepared, and maybe even a little bit ahead of the curve. Let's dive in. Item number 1 on this list is what's known as the Hemline Index. And over the years, economists have noted that hemlines tend to fall during recessions, with skirts getting longer as budgets get tighter. This so-called Hemline Index was first proposed by economist George Taylor way back in 1926, and it's held up surprisingly well across multiple economic cycles. In the Roaring 20s, short flapper dresses were all the rage, but when the Great Depression hit in the 1930s, women's fashion shifted towards longer, more conservative skirts. And then the same thing happened during the 2008 recession, with midi and maxi-length skirts making a major comeback after the miniskirt heyday of the early 2000s. And now people are suggesting that economic anxiety might be fueling the lower hemlines being flaunted in the rising tradwife trend of modern-day society. But regardless of how you feel about tradwives and hemlines, I think the takeaway here is that trends become less about standing out and more about stretching a dollar going into a recession. And so that's why we see focus shift to more practical, modest, and long-lasting styles. So if you're trying to recession-proof your wardrobe, skip the flashy trends and focus on versatile and timeless basics that will last for years. Next up, we have the recession blonde trend. And what this means is that when the economy starts to take a hit, tons of people start ditching their high-maintenance blonde highlights and expensive color treatments in favor of a more natural, low-maintenance color, such as a darker blonde or brunette. I'm so glad to hear that my hair color is trending. The bottom line is that all those $200 touch-up appointments can really add up fast. So going a few shades darker means your hair color can grow out more gracefully and requires fewer touch-ups, which means that you can stretch your appointments out longer and stretch your budget further. It's not just about saving money, it's about simplifying. And if you want to trim back on your beauty budget even more, it's also pretty easy to save money by skipping the salon altogether and DIYing your hair color to achieve the look you want at home using touch-up kits or coloring kits. And those small changes can add up to big savings over time. The third item on this list is the lipstick index. And oddly enough, lipstick sales often go up in a recession, but sales of more expensive makeup and skincare items will drop. And the theory behind the lipstick index is that women still want a small pick-me-up, but they're not as keen to splurge on expensive brands and huge beauty hauls, so they see lipstick as an affordable alternative that still feels like a luxury. So again, if you're looking for ways to cut back on your beauty budget, instead of impulse buying beauty products, try setting a small feel-good budget each month and be intentional going into that purchase. Now, I found this next one a little bit heartbreaking, and I have to say it made me a bit glad that I didn't have kids back when I was going through my toughest years in the recession of 2008. And my heart goes out to all of the parents out there about this one. This is called the Diaper Rash Index. So apparently during a recession, sales of diaper rash creams tend to spike because diapers are expensive, which means that struggling parents try to stretch their diaper supply as much as they can, which often means leaving babies in the same diaper longer than they normally would, leading to an unfortunate increase in diaper rash. This spending pattern shows just how deeply financial stress can impact even the most basic caregiving routines. And if you're a parent looking for ways to save money on this, consider signing up for a diaper subscription service or bulk buying with friends and family. Or if you can stomach it, cloth diapering can be an upfront investment that saves money over time and is gentler on your baby skin too. Also, I just wanted to throw this out there, which is that back when we lived in China for 2 years when my son was a baby, I noticed that a ton of Chinese parents are so far ahead of the curve when it comes to potty training their kids. And a lot of the kids that I would see when we would go out to the park would be potty trained really, really early. And then I started seeing these really young kids wearing these pants. How to say this? I called them open pigu pants, which is like open butt pants in Chinese. And so they would have this split from the crotch up to the butt crack. And I guess that this is a really effective potty training method. And in our Western culture here, there's a growing movement called elimination communication training, which is based on the idea that babies naturally signal when they need to potty. And once you figure out your child's cues, you can then have them potty trained and out of diapers as early as 18 months, which could potentially help you save a ton of money on diapering. So, just putting that out there if you're looking for ideas on how to potty train your kids more quickly and get them out of those diapers. Number 5 on this list is a drop in men's underwear sales. It might sound odd, but men's underwear sales are said to be one of the most reliable recession indicators, so much so that former Federal Reserve Chair Alan Greenspan used to track them. Because while underwear is a basic necessity, it's also easy to put off buying new undies when times get tough. And it's not that people suddenly stop caring about hygiene, it's that they're prioritizing essentials like food and rent over something that no one else can see. So when men stop replacing old underwear, it's a subtle sign that households are cutting back on everything they possibly can. This is one instance where learning basic sewing skills and being able to make small mends can really come in handy and save you money, such as like when the hemline separates or there's just a small hole at the seam. So that's just a small idea for how to save money on this category. Another sign of a looming recession is a decrease in online dating and perhaps dating in general. When a recession hits, online dating takes a noticeable dip, especially the kind that leads to in-person first dates. If you think about it, dating can get pretty expensive with drinks and dinners and ride shares and outfits or makeup adding up fast. So in tough times, people are less likely to shell out for first dates with strangers, and many pause on paid subscriptions or swipe less overall. Because sometimes, even when you're emotionally ready to meet someone, your budget isn't always Cupid ready. That being said, I actually met and fell in love with my husband in the middle of the Great Recession, and here we are 15 years later. So, my frugal tips for you here would be if you still want to give dating a go, even if you're doing a no buy year like I was back then to pay off my student loan debt, you can look for low cost ways to get romantic, such as going for long walks together, or grabbing a cheap cup of coffee, or even making romantic home cooked meals together. Because it's the connection that matters, not the cost. I'm a little bit nervous about this next one. Before we dive into number 7, I want to warn you that this is not a kid-friendly topic. And generally, I try to keep our chats to a nice, friendly PG-13 rating. But this next thing that people stop buying has been getting so much buzz in the news that I just couldn't keep it off the list. So if you have kids around or you yourself are easily offended, consider this your 10-second warning that it's time to exit this video. And by the way, while we're counting down, if you're enjoying this video or you're looking for more tips and ideas on decluttering, minimalism, and how to lead a simpler, more frugal life, please be sure and give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, time's up. So that brings us to number 7 on this list, which is the stripper index. So this is something that I had never heard of before until a couple articles and videos started popping up in my feed. And according to insiders, a drop in adult entertainment spending is one of the best ways to predict a recession. This industry relies heavily on disposable income, and so when that disappears, so does the clientele. Although the discussion that I was reading about and seeing from these women were saying that that tends to affect the more lower tiers of the industry compared to the higher tiers that's frequented by millionaires and billionaires. Go figure. Sorry, I don't have any tips for this one. I got nothing. Another thing people buy less of in a recession are coffins and burial plots. I can't remember whether I've ever mentioned this on my channel before or not, but my sister actually went to mortuary college and for quite a long time worked as a funeral director and did embalmings and cremations at the funeral home that she worked at before going back to college to become a nurse and going into hospice nursing. And it might sound morbid to you, but losing our parents and so many family members back when we were so young meant that we had a lot of conversations over the years about topics such as death, post-mortem care, and all of the costs associated with those things. Traditional funerals with caskets, headstones, and cemetery plots can easily cost $7,000 to $10,000 or more. And during a recession, many families simply can't afford that, so they'll choose cremation, which is significantly less expensive. According to the National Funeral Directors Association, cremation rates have been steadily rising over the past 2 decades, and they spike even higher during times of economic stress. I know that this isn't an easy subject to talk about, but speaking from the experience of someone who's had to go through this way too many times, pre-planning end-of-life arrangements will help you lock in lower prices and ease the financial and emotional burden that you're leaving on your family when you depart this world. And it's better to get that figured out while you're still alive rather than leaving your kids to figure it out. This isn't morbid, it's thoughtful and practical. Next up on this list, we have number 9, the Champagne Index. Champagne might seem like a niche luxury, but it's actually a strong recession indicator. When people feel financially confident, they buy bubbly to celebrate weddings, promotions, holidays, and other big life changes and milestones. But during a recession, champagne sales fall flat, with people either swapping premium brands for cheaper alternatives or opting out of splurging on this altogether. And my frugal tip for you here is that you don't need luxuries like champagne to celebrate positive moments in your life. You can create your own rituals with low-cost joys like homemade treats, heartfelt notes, or a cozy dinner in. So that feeling of celebration doesn't have to come with a big price tag. Another big thing people stop splurging on in a recession is travel. Travel is seen as a luxury, so it's often one of the first things that gets cut when people's budgets get tight. Expenses for flights, hotels, and car rentals can add up fast, not to mention the cost of going out to eat when you're on vacation, which is already pretty expensive and often costs even more in touristy locations, especially for families. So instead of taking big trips during a recession, you'll find people turning to staycations, road trips, or just staying put at home. Now, if you love to travel and you still want to fit it into your budget, you can definitely go for more budget-friendly options and keep your eyes peeled for off-season deals or plan micro adventures closer to home. And another thing that we've done to save money while traveling in the past is to budget for one dining out experience per day when traveling and rent a hotel or an Airbnb with a kitchen that allows you to prepare the rest of your meals at home to save on the cost of eating out. And finally, that brings us to number 11, which is that delivery pizza orders drop. Even comfort food isn't immune to downturns, and during a recession, delivery pizza orders noticeably decline. The CEO of Domino's Pizza even warned in 2024 that fewer and fewer customers were placing orders. Not because people stopped liking pizza, but because they're cutting back on convenience spending. Between the pizza, the delivery fees, and adding on a tip, that $12 pizza could easily turn into a $30 night. This is definitely an expense that we're being mindful and intentional about this year, particularly when it comes to delivery fees and tips. Not just for pizza, but it feels like every single store or service is nowadays trying to add on a sneaky 10 or 20% tip to the point where you start to feel like you're getting nickel and dime to death. And in fact, on the rare days that we don't want to cook at home, we either budget to go out to eat at a sit-down restaurant, or we go to pick up pizza or other meals ourselves and use a nice insulated carrying case that I got for free to keep it nice and hot for us to eat at home. But I sure am interested to hear your thoughts on this. Are there any other small or weird recession indicators that you've been noticing in your own life? If so, be sure and drop me a comment down below to let me know what those are. as well as any frugal tips or money-saving hacks you think might help someone else out there. And if you're looking for more ideas on how to spend less and save more this year, be sure and go check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks that you'll like, or I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.